Everyone, and welcome to the 8th Anti-Tech Spicewood Literary Festival. We are coming to you live from the food court of the Spiceland Mall in Grand Anse, and we invite you to come on down and join us. Those of you joining us this afternoon on GIS TV, Party Grenada Facebook page, Mikey Live, and the Grenada Cultural Foundation Facebook page, we welcome you. We welcome all of you who are in the mall here as well, especially those of you in the food court, having your lunch, shopping, whatever you're doing with us this afternoon. Just to let you know that the first annual Spicewood Literary Festival was held in 2010. It was fully supported by a visionary private sector, and it was voted a timely intervention and a resounding success by all Grenadians. It was the culmination of many hours of talk, discussion, and debate by authors, policymakers, and other stakeholders, persons in the like of Jacob Ross, author of Pinta Bender, that proposed the name Spicewood Festival and assisted in coining the expression, "Feel the rhythm in the woods." In 2008, at a meeting with the board of the Grenada Cultural Foundation, Senator Arlie Gill, then Minister of Culture, shared the vision and expressed the strong desire of both himself and Prime Minister Tillman Thomas to see Grenada begin its own literary festival. Understanding the magnitude of the undertaking, he exhorted the GCF to assist the Ministry of Culture to see it become a reality. 2 years later, in October 2010, this dream became an unforgettable reality. 3 Grenadian authors were recognized and featured at that festival: Dr. Merle Collins, Clyde Belfort, the late David Omawali Franklin. These authors were selected not only for the brilliance and range of their works, but in particular because of their writings predominantly make up use of Grenadian voice, the vernacular, the Creole or the patois that adds the rich flavor to our speech every day. This festival was successful in realizing most of its fundamental aims, that is, to highlight and showcase the work of Grenadian authors and to undertake developmental activities that would support and encourage the work of published and emerging authors. In particular, it demonstrates how the vernacular could be employed to enhance our literary works to reflect the true Grenadian experience. At the launch of the festival, one of the gurus of storytelling in the Caribbean region, Grenada's own anti-tech, Thelma Ermintrude Knight Phillip, was honored as the High Priestess of Storytelling and presented with an award. At daily book fairs were hosted by the local library, authors from all walks of life read and shared their works and were broadcast live on local television. At a poetry slam exposition in Heroes Square, Victoria St. Mark, authors got the opportunity to perform their work and show off their talent. Storytelling was held in St. Patrick on the famous Bathway Beach under the ambience of the blazing bonfire. 84-year-old Aunty Tech, she mesmerized the audience with performance of the Zian and Nancy stories and inspired a new generation of storytellers. Perhaps it would be true to say that the boundless and unflagging enthusiasm of Senator Arlie Gill, his drive and single-minded focus, and ensured that the Anti-Tech Spicewood Festival, Spicelit Fest, is now an annual event in Grenada's cultural calendar as we continue to feel the rhythm in the world. It is the 8th festival. So from then to now, yeah, let's give ourselves a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Curl Hoshtialek. She is the chairperson of the Grenada Cultural Foundation to move some remarks. Mrs. Hoshtialek.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I I hope you are looking forward to this as much as I am this afternoon, hearing all of these great literary works by so many authors that we have present that are Grenadian born. I'm going to be very short this afternoon. And first, I'd like to start with the fact that on the theme for today, which is literacy, opening new doors to our future. This year's theme is not only relevant, aspirational, thought-provoking, it really presents and cements our beliefs, and it truly is about making history. As Brenda originally said, our first Spice Literary Festival was held in 2010. Today, 8 years later, this festival thrives. The festival continues to highlight and showcase our authors as they develop, and also in terms of how we express and publish and how we support our emerging authors. In particular, of course, it demonstrates how we are as a people, how our vernacular can be used, how those reflect our true Grenadian culture, our heritage, our history, and our natural way of life. Over the years, numerous Grenadian authors have been recognized and featured over the past 8 years. Merle Collins, Wendy Crawford, Ricardo Keynes Douglas, and many more I'm sure that you are aware of. These authors are not only brilliant and continue to thrive, but they show diversity in their works. And because of this, their writings are predominantly Grenadian in every way. And this shows who we are and what we are as a people. We add rich flavor to our everyday speech in everything and in everywhere that we do. Today, it is certainly my pleasure to remind us of the expression, feel the rhythm in the words. The tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique is a potpourri of love, food, expression, and beauty. We are who we are. Preserving and sharing this with each other and the world is critical to the longevity and vitality of our traditions. The Aunty Spice Word Festival, as we commonly call it, a Spice Lit Fest, is a staple calendar on our cultural events in Grenada. And of course, it's an event that we want more and more visitors to be able to come and enjoy what we have and who we are, what we have to offer. And it's really important that we understand that we have such a wide range of what culture really is. And when we talk about literacy, it is one thing. When we talk about songs and music and heritage and entertainment, they all really bundle up into one, and who we are and what our lifestyles are really about. So today, I want to remind us that when we continue to feel this rhythm in the words, and when you listen to all of the different authors today, that you are creating new storytellers for the generations to come, new prayer lights for the generations to come, illustrators, poets, and authors. Please do enjoy the day as you listen to all of these readings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the chairperson of the Grenada Cultural Foundation, Mrs. Curl Hashti Alec. Of course, she is a new chairperson of the Grenada Culture Foundation, so this is one of her maiden opening. So let's hear it for her again. We would like to recognize our former Minister of Culture, Senator the Honorable Brenda Hood. Well, no longer a senator, but maybe to some of us she might always be. Of course, she's a very proud supporter of the arts. And so welcome, Mrs. Brenda Hood. A former chairperson of the Grenada Cultural Foundation as well, and also the Spice Mats Corporation, Mrs. Jocelyn Sylvester Gary, and all other authors and friends who have joined us here this afternoon. The Grenada Cultural Foundation, we would like to say a special thank you to Quartz Grenada Limited, just to remind you that the countdown has begun to Christmas. And Quartz say to make this season epic. And you can do so when you shop at Quartz. Free gifts with selected purchases of over $4.99 and over. And there's a selected list. Quartz, they're also, through the kind courtesy of Quartz, we are well furnished, as you can see this afternoon here. So thank you so much, Quartz. Make your Christmas special at courts. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the first author of the afternoon, Ayo Taylor. Now, Ayo is a 9-year-old student of the First Choice Junior School. She is the daughter of Garvin and Valda Taylor. Ayo has been an avid reader from the age of 5. She is the reigning champion of the Courts Reading Championships, that's a local leg, and she went on to represent Grenada at the Courts OECS Reading Championships in St. Lucia in May 2018. Ayo has a great appreciation of Grenada's history and culture. Please welcome Ayo Taylor. So good afternoon, Ayo.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Aww. So tell us, what do you like most about reading? Why is reading so special to you?
Well, it's fun and you could learn new things.
It's fun and you could learn new things, yeah?
Yeah.
You find that you travel a lot of places too through reading?
Kind of.
Places and countries and so on?
Well,
Yeah?
when I sleep.
Pardon?
When I sleep.
While you sleep. You have a very creative mind. All right, so I'm sure you have done something special for us today.
I wrote a story.
You wrote a story. All right, tell us the story. Let me hold your mic for you.
A day at Grand Dance Beach. Today is a very exciting day. Today I'm going to Grand Dance Beach. Before we go, we have to change into our swimsuits and pack our bags. Mommy says, I will pack a picnic. Then that way we can eat our lunch on the beach. My daddy, my brother, and I pack the beach bags. We pack towels, beach toys, clothes for after the picnic, and a cooler of drinks. We put everything in the back of the car and go. When we arrive at the beach, the first thing we spot is the clear turquoise waters. As we walk in the warm white sand, we see seagulls circling the water. Looks like the seagulls are getting their lunch, says Mommy. I guess that means it's time for our lunch too, I say. So everyone gets a plate and takes out their lunch. This is delicious, says my brother. Yes, I agree. Compliments to the chef, says my daddy. This is really good, I say. Now that everyone is finished eating, why don't we go take a dip, suggests Mommy. Sure, replies my brother. When we walk into the cool, refreshing water, we spot a shoal of fish swimming along the coast. Then we play some games. Okay, everyone, I think it's time to go, says Daddy. Oh, already? Asks my brother. Yes, you don't want to get wrinkled like a prune, do you? Asks Mommy. So everyone dries off with their towels, changes into their clothes, and leaves. What a fun day it was. I hope we can do this again, I say.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Ayo. So that was your day at the beach?
Yes.
Yeah, so I felt like I was at the beach. I felt like I was eating, I saw the seagulls, I saw everything.
You did?
Good? So tell us about the experience you had when you did the court reading festival. How was that?
Well, at first I was very scared.
At first you were scared?
Yes.
You don't look like somebody that's scared. You're very confident. And at first you were scared, and then what happened?
And then after, I didn't feel so scared anymore after I read the story.
All right. What story did you read?
Well, the story was called How Sun, Moon, and Wind Went to Dinner.
Okay, good. So, in terms of your reading, Ayo, so you read and you also write because you wrote this story.
Yes.
So, how does reading help you in your writing?
Well, usually sometimes when I read a storybook, it sometimes gives me ideas of a new story, or sometimes I would just write over the story in a different way.
Okay. And where else do you get ideas from?
When I go places.
When you talk to your friends?
Sometimes.
On the way to school?
No.
Not so much?
No.
Oh, okay. Good. And what are your favorite kind of stories? Or the favorite stories you like to write?
Funny ones.
Funny ones.
Yes.
So here we are. I might be a future comedian here. So what would you like to do when you, let's say, you get to about 20?
I want to be a surgeon.
You want to be a?
Surgeon.
A surgeon. Ah, well, the way you're dissecting words and visuals and thoughts, Ayo, you could do anything. So you write surgical books?
Maybe.
Maybe? All right, how does it feel to be a part of this, the Aunty Tech Spice Word Festival?
Good.
It feels good?
Yes.
Yes, all right. So on Monday, all your friends are going to say, Ayo, we saw you, we're proud of you. And if you had to say, let's say, tell them something about this experience so far, like since you've been here today, what would you say?
It was fun.
Uh-huh.
And I felt scared.
It was fun, eh?
I felt scared.
It was fun and she felt scared. Ayo, you're not scared. I think you like the word scared, but you're not scared. You're not scared. All right? Anybody you want to say hello to? To who? Mommy and Daddy? She's just waving. I guess you're saying hello to Mommy and Daddy. And what would you tell your, if you had a friend that walked up to you right now and they say, you know, Ayo, I want to read and write, or I want to write a book, but I don't know. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say think of something that you like to talk about.
Yes.
And then it would be easy.
Yes. That's good advice. Think of something you like to talk about, and then it will be easy. Good. And some passion would come with that too, yeah? All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Ayo Taylor. So thank you, Ayo. And thanks for speaking with us. And I love your dress again. All right. Let's hear it for her, ladies and gentlemen. She is 9 years old. Of course, that's where you have to start with them, you know, that early, to inculcate reading, writing in them, with them. So we're getting ready to meet our next author. Of course, he is absolutely no stranger. So there's a lot of things I can say about him because I read his books, but I'll just stick to the formality of what we have here today. So our next author is a fine gentleman by the name of David E. Ambrose. Name sounds familiar? Right. Now, he attended the Grenada Boys Secondary School, the GBSS, from 1983 to 1986. Mr. Ambrose, you that young? And after spending a year at the Grenada National College, he traveled to the United States to pursue a bachelor's degree in foreign languages from Principia College, Elsa, Illinois, in the USA. He graduated from Principia in 1993. In 2005, Mr. Ambrose obtained a master's in education, curriculum, and instruction, that is, from the University of Phoenix. Ambrose began his teaching career at his alma mater, the GBSS, in 1994, where he taught mathematics and Spanish. He resigned from the public service in 1998 to be part of the founding team to start the Meridian School of Grenada, a private all-age school. He became head of Meridian in 2005, and in 2008, he left Meridian to take up a position as Communication Studies lecturer at the T.A. Marishaw Community College at TAM-CC. He also lectured in Spanish, French, and German. He lives in Grenada with his wife and has 2 children and continues as a lecturer at the TAM-CC. White Spice was his debut novel, and if you haven't read it as yet, you must. And he just released another novel as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the mic Mr. David E. Ambrose.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, the couch is a tight fit for both of us, so we just stretch our legs and our lungs.
No problem.
All right. So last year you were featured again in the Aunty Spice Word Festival. So how does it feel?
It's always good to hear that people like my book. White Spice was one that people really enjoyed. I was pleasantly surprised. And they're always asking me, when are you doing the sequel? Yes. All right, coming soon.
Yes, that's a question I have for you as well. Any thoughts of bringing it to the screen or adaptation or production?
I've always thought about that. And in fact, one filmmaker asked me about that. So I'll probably get into that in a couple of years.
A filmmaker asked you? All right, yeah, so the door's opening. Nice, good. So you have another book.
Yeah, my second book. That Time in Bogles, a Carriacou tale. So I took my story or my writing to Carriacou this time. This one started out as a short story, but I expanded it because I thought, well, Carriacou has a lot of tales, a lot of stories. So maybe I should do more than just write a short story.
Right.
And so it came out as a little novel, a novella. And so far, people are really enjoying this one.
Really? I have to get that one. All right. That Time in Bogles?
Correct.
Tell us about That Time in Bogles.
That was quite a time, eh? Bogles is a village on the western side of Carriacou, small seaside village. It's actually the village where my mother is from. So even though I am Grenadian, I was born in Grenada, I have a lot of relatives in Carriacou, from Bogles, from the central part, Bossejou, Hillsborough, and so on. So I decided to do some research and combine that with my own short experiences in Carriacou to come up with this tale. And it's a story about a Grenadian boy in the 80s who went to Carriacou to spend his Easter vacation with his cousins. He went reluctantly because, the boat ride, it's dry season, no current, no TV, no running water. But anyway, it turned out that he really enjoyed his time in Bogles. And so that's what the story is all about. It digs deep into the culture of Carriacou, where they do things a little bit differently from how we do things here on the mainland, especially back then in the 1980s.
That's interesting. And so you mentioned no telephone, no current, of course, no devices, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, the likes. So you really got a time to have human reaction.
Yes.
Right? As an educator and as an author, as you bring those experiences to life, what is it? Because people tend to say, oh, we don't have the richness that we had before. Do you think that those elements that you mentioned, do you think they play any part in how we're interacting with each other as it relates to how children now how they write as compared to probably when you and I went to school?
Yeah, because I think that back then we experienced a lot of things. We played outside, we interacted with each other, with people, face to face, which is very important, and not virtually, through social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, and those types of things, but personally. We played outside, cricket, marbles, spin tops. We played cards as a family, these kinds of things. And so we lived the experiences. I think too many young people, children, are missing out on that nowadays. Of course, the electronics and these types of devices are important. But it's also important to get out there and be in touch with nature, be in touch with family, and so on.
So give us a piece from that time in Bogles. Take us to Bogles.
Let's go to Bogles. So the main character is Daniel. Oh, sit. Okay. The main character is Daniel. He's the Grenadian boy. So he travels to Bogles. He interacts with his cousins Elijah, and Ruthie. And they all live with Tanti and Tantan. So I'm going to read from the chapter called Stone Feast Preparations. Stone Feast is a time in Carriacou where after a relative has died or family member has died, 2 years later, they would build a tombstone. And so they would have a nice fete afterwards. In fact, last month, my aunt's family laid a tombstone for her. I had to miss that. I couldn't go to Carriacou for that. But it's a big thing. It was bigger back in the day too. It's a big thing. So this chapter is called Stone Feast Preparations. The big day arrived, and Daniel jumped up from his slumber just before sunrise, thanks to a zealous rooster. He stared at the roof and wondered if it would ever rain while he was in Carriacou. Elisha had disclosed that Bogles had last received rain in late December. He stumbled outside to empty his bladder below a plum tree behind the kitchen. As Daniel became mesmerized by his urine stream soaking an ant's nest, he felt a menacing presence. He lifted his gaze slowly. His heart skipped a beat. The body of a large green and black serpent pulsated around the branch about 4 feet above his head. He couldn't see the reptile's head, but he decided to move to another spot. He backed away slowly from the spot, still urinating. It took an agonizingly long half-minute for him to finally finish. Then he dashed back to the house. Tanti had already set breakfast on the table in the hall. Daniel wasted no time in joining the others in wolfing on coconut bakes and corned fish. They sipped steaming hot Grenadian cocoa. He, Elijah, and Elisha ate silently while Ruth talked up a storm. The boys grunted occasionally so that Ruth wouldn't think she was conducting a monologue. Daniel watched the sunlight on a coconut tree outside as he savored his meal. Suddenly, Ruth let loose a blood-curdling scream and bolted from the table. She toppled her chair and made a beeline for the back door, leaping over the steps to get outside. The boys jumped up from their seats, mouths agape. Could Ruth have gotten so angry with them for not actively conversing with her? Tanti entered the hall with Ruth holding on to the back of her dress. So you couldn't see something fall in Ruthie? Puzzled expressions spread over the boys' faces. Tanti, we was eating, Elijah said. We ain't noticed nothing. What fall in your tea, Ruthie? Elisha asked. I ain't know. I just see something black fall in front of me eye, and I hear a splash in my cup. Tanti picked up the enamel cup and headed outside, the 4 children in tow. She poured a half cup of cocoa onto the ground. A coiled millipede rolled out as well. Ruth screamed. Is a Congori? Tanti are no drinking from that cup again. Tanti stoops. Child, stop your stupidness. I'm washing out the cup with soap and hot water and Clorox, and nothing go do you. Ruth couldn't be consoled. She continued to cry until Tanti finally agreed to get her a new cup. Her mother gave the contaminated cup to Elisha, who threw it into the bushes behind the kitchen. The girl smiled broadly. As soon as Ruthie ran back into the house, Tanti signaled to Elisha to retrieve the cup. As if I go throw away my good cup, she thought, shaking her head. Are you? Get ready to go for water, Daniel's aunt instructed. Go by Mr. Simon first. Come back and empty out them bucket, then go up and prospect for more. You mean we have to make 2 trips today? Elisha said. Daniel mentally counted the days remaining in his Karaku vacation. And make haste, Tanti said. We need water to make plenty juice. As the boys were about to head out for their water run, Tantan and a few men entered the yard. One man took a bucket of fresh fish to the kitchen, while the rest of the entourage headed for the firesides already set up around the compound. Elisha grabbed his cousin's arm. Danny, wait, watch this. They stood silently as the men stopped at each fireside and alternately poured some rum and water on the ground. They mumbled something unintelligible after each anointment. What going on there? Daniel had never seen this ritual before. They're paying their respects to their ancestors, Elijah explained. You hear them people name they're calling out? Elijah nudged Daniel. That is family that dead already. They talk in English? Daniel wondered aloud. Tanti appeared with a loaded pot and headed for a fireside. She noticed the boys loafing around. Are you skylarking? She yelled. Sometimes, Elijah answered Daniel. Let's go for water, eh? Are you save some rum for the graveside too? They heard Tantan say as they left the yard. When the boys returned from Mr. Simon's, cooks were manning the various firesides. The mouth-watering aroma of stewed and curried meat floated over the compound. Daniel sniffed the air and identified pork, beef, mutton, and chicken. Elisha, Elijah, and their father had killed 8 yard fowls on Friday morning, which Tantan had seasoned for today's feast. Neighbors and relatives had supplied most of the other meats. Ruth and a few girls and ladies grated coconut into large containers. The steaming pots gave Daniel and his cousins extra energy to hurry to prospect for more water. Beads of sweat streamed down their faces even before they got to the main road. All trees stood like statues in the baking sun. So who are we going for water by in prospect? Daniel asked, wiping perspiration from his forehead with his hand. 2 white people from England have a big house up there overlooking the sea, Elisha replied. Tanti was washed for them every week. They have 4 big cisterns. Our littles really suffer for water up here, Daniel remarked. So what does take place in the cemetery? The Grenadian inquired. Well, the priest coming from Hillsborough to dedicate the headstone in the cemetery, Elijah replied. It's a real nice black marble headstone, and it's engraved in gold. Daniel grunted. The boys plodded on silently in the blistering sun. They were relieved to get to a shaded section of the road. Daniel looked up in awe at the size of the branches that spread overhead. His eyes traced them back to a massive trunk about 20 feet inside the bushes just ahead of them. He recognized a silk cotton tree with a trunk as wide as Tanti's kitchen. Without saying a word to each other, all 3 boys sprinted at top speed past the creepy tree. Passing back this way will be interesting, Daniel thought. When they returned home, the boys took advantage of the shade provided by a massive tent that covered the front yard. They looked for the coolest spots to rest after emptying the containers of water. Starchy foods bubbled on firesides at several locations around the compound. Conrhonda huffed and puffed under the avocado tree as she used a huge wooden paddle to turn cuckoo in an enormous pot. Sweat poured from the plump lady's forehead into the pot. Daniel had never seen such humongous cooking vessels. He spied Ruth making herself useful as she helped two ladies make roll rice. He surmised that 8-year-old Ruth could bathe comfortably in one of these pots. Daniel drank some water while his eyes scanned the scene. He abruptly dropped the cup, coughing and spitting. His surprised cousins looked at him and followed his terrified eyes to the center of the yard. 3 headless fowls lay on the ground, their severed heads not too far from the torsos. Irregular blood spatter patterns surrounded the final resting places. Elijah patted his cousin on his back. Don't worry, it's just part of the dedication. Daniel sighed. The ancestors was really play a big role in them kayak life, he thought. So there's a lot that has to go into the stone feast preparation. And after the stone feast preparation, the stone feast itself involves plenty eating, plenty drinking, dancing, and lots of fetting. So thank you. This one is called That Time in Bogles, a Caracou Tale. It's available from me if you'd like to get one. I have copies right now today. Today's sale price is only $30.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. David E. Ambrose.
Thank you, thank you.
So That Time in Bogles.
That Time in Bogles.
Yeah, I was transported to Bogles for a bit.
Ah, yes, all right. So it's a quiet village, very cultural.
Right.
And
but that's clear.
Yeah. The chapter after this one has a lot taking place, actually, to the stone feast itself.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fetting. I missed one last month myself. My cousin called me afterwards, boy, you miss a lot of food, boy, real food. So, you know, that's how it goes in Caracou.
Right.
Yeah, they fet a lot.
Right.
And everybody's always welcomed, even people who are not part of the family. I remember last year visiting, we crashed somebody's family reunion. And it was no big deal, you know. Hey, come, take some food, have some drink, you know.
Yeah.
No big deal at all.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So White Spice, That Time in Bogles. I'm sure number 3 is on its way.
Yeah, I have quite a number of projects that I'm working on.
Right.
So number 3 is on its way. People have been after me, please do a sequel to White Spice.
Yes.
So maybe that one is next.
And a film adaptation.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So we're channeling good energy for that. Best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you. One
you
of
for
our
having me
finest
again.
on island, ladies and gentlemen, author David E. Ambrose.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambrose. We continue on with the 8th Anti-Tech Spiceword Festival. Of course, it has been brought to you by the Grenada Cultural Foundation. And this afternoon, the streaming of it is brought to you compliments of friends at Courts. This Christmas is going to be epic at Courts. You spend $4.99 or more, and you have a chance to win great gifts when you shop at Courts. Courts, bringing value home. It is our pleasure to introduce our next author. So we're going to tell you a little bit about this feisty lady. She is Dr. Wendy Crawford Daniel. She's from St. Paul's in St. George. And as a student, she was very active and played a leading role in many youth and student organizations. Wendy completed a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's degree in social policy and administration at UWI Mona, Jamaica. She received a fellowship to pursue a PhD in social gerontology and medical sociology at Temple University in Philadelphia. Upon completion of her PhD, Dr. Crawford returned to Grenada and joined the faculty at St. George's University. She is a professor of sociology in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. As a research sociologist, Dr. Crawford Daniel has conducted a number of research projects in Grenada and the region. She devotes a great deal of her time to community service, holds membership in a number of community organizations. Her first book, a docu-novel entitled Unveiling Island Passion, is a brilliant piece of work highlighting the social and cultural life of Grenada. Her book has been receiving excellent reviews. Her second book, Sun Rising, will be available in December of this year. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Wendy Crawford Daniel. Try not to fan out this afternoon. Yeah, we could squeeze up on the couch, man. Tight up, squeeze up. Yeah, you and I could squeeze up. So I hear the voice in Too Good today. What happened? Party too much last night. So yeah, Miss Hallie standing by. Okay, so she's gonna read. So just tell us a little bit about, this wonderful art of writing and you as an author, and just why, because being a professor, you meet all sorts of Grenadian youngsters every single day. So why is reading and writing and embracing the Grenadian way of life and expressing it through literary works, why is that important?
Extremely important, first of all, because we have such beautiful stories to tell. We have such a great history. We have tremendous potential in Grenada, writers and poets and playwrights and you name it, that can convey our culture or history or way of life. And I am particularly interested in the social life of Grenada. So you'll find much of my writing is focused on the everyday life of the people. For example, in Unveiling Island Passion, it's a sort of celebration of Grenada's history and culture and diversity and, so. But the second book, which is called Sun Rising, Sun Rising will be in stores, or I'll have a launch for Sun Rising in December. It is a story of a guy growing up, he's gay and growing up in Grenada. So his experiences at home with his parents, who have tremendous difficulty accepting that their son is gay. His experiences at school, church, employment, and of course his experiences in relationship, intimate relationship. So this book will become available soon, but it's it tries to capture the experiences of this individual and what he would have gone through psychologically, emotionally, physically, having been rejected by everyone, and and his ability and his perseverance to overcome much of the discrimination that he would have experienced and to live a full life. So this journey that he took to know who he is the focus of this this book. It's aimed at helping people to understand the importance of respecting others and that the world is diverse, and unless we are prepared to accept the diversities of the world, we definitely will have a lot of problems if we do not do that. So
I look forward to reading that.
Oh, yes.
I look forward to reading that, especially in the context of in a Grenada in which we live. And you seem to, I'm sure you are going to tackle the very things that people find very hard to accept and to deal with and to understand. Right? Why did you decide to write that?
It's a strange story. I'm a research sociologist, so I encounter a lot of these types of social situations in terms of looking at the day-to-day life of people. And I remember after class one day, one of my students came to me and said to me, could you please tell me my story, after one of our classes. So I said, well, tell me your story. So after he told me the story, I said, it could make a very interesting, but it's not enough. So I asked him to introduce me to the community of LGBT community in Grenada, and through a sort of snowball reference, I was able to speak to many and did a composite. So the character in this book is a composite
Right.
pulling together the stories of many others,
Right.
both male and female,
Right.
and their experiences through the character in this book.
Right.
So it's really an interesting read. I think
Yes.
educational, very informative, and at the same time, it really touches the day-to-day life of our people, and you know how we
Yes.
react to diversity, and really try to capture a teaching moment. So
Talking
it's
about
both
teaching moment,
entertaining.
as you kind of researched and got interacted with people to pen this book, what was the most revealing thing to you about us and how we look at people who are different from us, especially sexually different?
The most revealing thing for me, and well, it was very enlightening for me. Of course, I would have had my own prejudices. I would have had my own perceptions and stereotypes. And having done this research, it became very clear to me that your sexuality, it is what it is. You know, it is not something you cannot, it is not a lifestyle. You cannot choose to be that. It's all within nature. So that was very revealing based on all of the research, you know. Quite often we think is somebody choose to be gay, or it's a lifestyle. You could go in and out of it as much as you want. And also another thing that was very revealing to me is the extent to which family members, especially parents and siblings, have difficulty accepting that situation. And the experiences of the person, the gay person in that family setting, we do not know the extent to which we are really destroying emotionally and psychologically persons, you know, I mean, resources in our own small country. So it's really interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I look forward to reading. And it's called?
Sun Rising.
Sun Rising. Dr.
S-O-N, Sun Rising.
Yes. Why did you name it Sun Rising?
Another interesting story. I completed the book and did not have a name for it.
You know, most great artists say that they do the work and there's no name, or they hear the melody and then they don't. Then they write the lyrics.
I wanted a name, so one of the persons I gave the manuscript to read for me, you know, as soon as he read it, he said, Sun Rising. That's the name. So it's not my creation. He created that name for me.
That's wonderful. So it was collaborative.
It was very collaborative.
And talking about collaboration, to read an excerpt from Dr. Crawford's book this afternoon will be her very good friend.
And editor.
And editor as well. And just this week, she facilitated the writers or the workshop at this
Stadium.
week at the stadium for the Spicewood Festival, the 8th Anti-Tech Spicewood Literary Festival. So please welcome to read Dr. Crawford's book, Miss Claudia Halley of the Open Campus of the University of the West Indies. Dr. Crawford, congratulations and thanks. I look forward to reading.
Sure.
Miss Halley, have a seat.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will read from chapter 1 and most of chapter 2. I sat in the growing darkness and privacy of the balcony and became increasingly confused and disturbed. I did not want to go indoors to encounter my mother, who was sitting in the living room with the television looking at her. I started to reflect, thinking about all the things I did for any clue that I was that way, anything that could provide me with a hint that someone knew something. At first, I drew a blank. Then slowly, reality dawned on me. I had just turned 16 and had recently completed high school when my father passed away. I remembered sitting at his bedside with my mother, who was constantly mopping beads of sweat from his forehead. She was unable to contain the flow of tears rolling down her cheeks and onto the bedsheet. It was only now I began to understand that the tears had more to do with me and less to do with my father's illness. Then, like the force of a brick to the head, I remembered my father's dying words. My father took a deep breath, paused from his painful groaning, and turned toward me. With a tormented expression, he looked me directly in the eyes and said with undeniable strength, despite his illness, "I am dying a sad man, a very sad man. You have broken my heart. All that I have worked for and accomplished adds to naught. I thought you would find yourself a wife and give us grandchildren, but I guess that will never be. It will never happen. Never, never. Oh God, what have I done to deserve this?" His voice faded and his eyes closed. But Daddy, I said, I just finished high school and I plan to go to college. I'm not ready for that kind of life. Why? Why, Dexter? Why? He was bewildered and on the verge of tears. Daddy, this is not time for that right now. I am more concerned about you. Daddy, I want you to get better. In any case, it will be a long time before I even think about wife and children. That is not important to me at all. Let's focus on getting... I did not complete the sentence as he interrupted my words and shouted at me, "What?" He found sufficient strength to lift his head. "This is foolishness. I knew all along you were one of them." "One of them? Who's them, Daddy?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" So this is the excerpt from chapter 1. And it's from chapter 3. I originally said chapter 2, A Father's Rage. As my mind raced through those scenarios, I was determined to undertake a self-study to understand the formulation of my own sexuality. The earliest encounter I could remember was at the tender age of 8. It was lunchtime at Westmoreland Junior School. All the children were out playing, having finished with their various lunches. A group of boys were playing windball cricket at the far end of the playground, while another group of boys, who chose to be spectators of the game, climbed and sat on a branch of the flamboyant tree nearby. The girls were playing a ring game at the other end of the grounds, with others looking on. I was the only boy who played with the girls at break time. I was afraid of everything at that time. I was afraid of rough play. I was afraid that I would be struck by a ball. I was afraid of climbing and falling off trees. I was frightened of lizards, hornets, and black ants, which made the massive flamboyant tree their home. I did not want to soil my school uniform, get mud on my shoes, or get roughed up and teased by the unruly boys. To be safe and avoid any confrontation, I played with the girls who were gentle with me and mastered all the games they played. The girls loved me and happily included me in everything they did. I had earned the reputation and was innocently called Señorita for no other reason but for being the player or señorita with the best waist movement in a popular instructive song which we sang at the top of our infant-like shrieking voices. I'm going to the country, I'm going to the fair, to meet a señorita with flowers in her hair. Oh, shake it, señorita, shake it if you can. Shake it like a bushel and shake it once again. Rumble to the bottom, rumble to the top, and turn around until you make a stop. I remember the first time I learned that instructive game from the girls and went home to demonstrate to my parents. My mother was hysterical. She laughed at the way I closed my eyes and sang while I swung my waist from side to side, gyrating down to the floor and moving back up again with the same motion, just as the girls taught me. My father, on the other hand, became extremely furious with me and my mother and stated, "That is not a laughing matter, Cathy. Why don't you just transfer him to Mother Rose?" Mother Rose is an all-girls school. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Miss Hallie. Of course, Miss Hallie is, she was Dr. Crawford's voice this afternoon, and she also was one of the facilitators at the Publishers, Writers, and Editors Workshop as part of the Aunty Text Spicewood Festival 2018. Literacy, opening new doors to our future. We continue. Thank you so much, Dr. Crawford. The book, it sounds riveted. I can't wait to purchase my copy. And, of course, attacking a very, very, very relevant social issue. Our next author is Miss Cindy Mackenzie. Cindy was born in St. Patrick, Grenada, and she feels fortunate to have had a village upbringing in the days when the road was her playground and doors were never locked. She migrated to the UK in 2007, but after 7 winters, she moved back to her island in the sun, Grenada, where she explores and nurtures her passions and creativity through writing, sharing stories on her blog www.cindymac.info and on Facebook, as well as her new discovery in her rustic selections, which is also on her Facebook page. With Cindy, nothing is set in stone. She lets her free-spirited nature take on musical experiences, dancing under the stars with live bands. She's a mother of 3 grown children, which thankfully allows her the time and freedom for these explorations. She lives with her husband and daughter. Cindy's book, Force Ripe, it's set on a West Indian island. Force Ripe portrays the story of Lee, a little girl growing up in a northern village in the 1970s, when it was normal for children to be left with grandparents while parents went abroad to work and send money home. It was a time of revolution, during which Lee's father joined a growing Rastafarian movement. Force Ripe tells, in Lee's voice, the story of her life in the ghetto with her brother and father, when the siblings were taken out of school and left on their own to roam the bushes and smoke ganja. It describes how she was taken by a Rasta man when she was just 10 and how she survived with no one to turn to during a time of women's liberation, free education, and youth movements. She is subsequently rescued when the Rastafarian commune is disbanded by the People's Revolutionary Army, the PRA, and struggles to bury her secret past. Please welcome author Cindy Mackenzie. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, it's a pleasure to be here with you. So, how is a girl from the northernmost parish this afternoon?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you as well. So, Cindy, you know, a very celebrated author. I have read this book 4 times, and I try to read books in a dispassionate way. I try. Right, but I have a lot of emotions. So I end up reading them 4 and 5 times just to get a different perspective and to not be so, but the emotions and the story, it's so raw and it's so gripping and it's so telling that every time I've read it, I just can't help crying. So why am I crying and why does it evoke those emotions?
I think it resonates with so many people, and you're not the first one who's told me that. You know, so many people have expressed, you know, the roller coaster of emotions that they go through reading the book, and
anger.
It's I suppose everybody has a story, and it sort of relates. You can, you know, the characters are so real, and I suppose the scenes and you know, reading about people and places and events that you know people know about, you know, and someone, you know, people who know me personally know of the story. So I suppose that really evokes emotions in people like me.
Yeah. I remember when you launched the book, there were a couple of people who went to school with you, and they were like, "Oh my God, I never knew that."
Yeah.
So you did a good job masking.
I did. I tried.
So what did writing your story, letting the world know your story, what did that do?
It was very therapeutic, you know. For me, it started as therapy when I started putting pen to paper in 2001, a long time ago. Yeah. It was difficult. I actually had to go back into the child's head and remember and see things as she saw it, then feel it and evoke everything again so I can write the scenes and write it real and authentic. So it was very difficult. But I think by the time I started writing the story, I had overcome it. You know, I had gotten over the phase of the shame and the, you know, hiding the secret already. So it was easier for me to share it with the world, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you write about, of course, Lee is Cindy.
Yes,
Lee's story is Cindy's story. And I'm sure there are lots of young people listening. People might be just online. There might be people here in the food court this afternoon that struggling, you know, with the pain of some sort of abuse or the other. So just talk to us a bit about that and what it takes to overcome it. And that everybody's, in terms of overcoming and addressing and coming out, how different it is.
It's not an easy thing. You know, we all deal with struggles and challenges in different ways. For me, it took a very long time. The first time I really opened up about my story was with my husband. Even my mother did not really know what I went through until she read the book. She was away. She came back. And we were never able to talk about it. It was just such a stigma and such a, you know, dark secret that I couldn't, and she couldn't ask me, and I couldn't bring myself to tell her about it. And I know it affected both of us, our relationship, because she went away when I was 3 and came back when I was 16, so we were never able to bond. And that dark secret was always there. You know, I used to look at my mom and wish I could tell her what really happened. She heard it from people, and she kind of knew the gist of the story, but she didn't really know the whole story. And for people suffering and people, you know, with, you know, stuff that has happened to them, it's everybody deal with it in different ways, and you know, it might take a lifetime for some people to ever be able to open up. I suppose I would call myself brave because I you know, let it out to the whole world. I have absolutely no shame. This is something that happened to me. I had absolutely no control over what happened to me when I was a child. So, yeah.
Well said. You were a child.
Yes.
You were a child. How has this experience impacted your role as a mother with your own children? Your relationship? Are you a hoverer? Are you overprotective? What do you do?
Wow, I think I know I've overcompensated in a lot of ways, because even with my own children, I split from their father when they were very young. So it was hard to be a mother with children living, some with me and some with their father. I have 3 children, and I never wanted to repeat what happened, because we know the cycle, it goes around and around. My mother's mother left her when she was a child to go to England, and then she left us when we were children. And I never really, you know, I swore that I was never going to leave my children. When I left Grenada, they were mostly, you know, they were teenagers. And I did my best, you know, to be there as a mother as much as I could. You know, I made the best of motherhood.
Right. So Cindy Mackenzie, she's going to tell us some story from some excerpt. Read from the book Forthright.
Thank you, Brenda. Because it's October and we have just had Thanksgiving, I have a chapter that is set around when Maurice Bishop was under house arrest and what happened following that. So I'm going to read an excerpt from that chapter. It's called The Revo Done. It's just after lunchtime on October 19th, 1983. And I could feel it have something in the air. Children running to their classrooms, talking loud. Even though the sisters always telling us how convent girls should be seen and not heard. Quiet, girls, please, Miss Kettle shout. But nobody listening to her. Some of the girls packing their bags already, as if school over. Settle down now, girls, Miss Kettle say again. But everybody's still talking. They're not settling down. And outside sounding busy, vehicles speeding up St. John's Street and up towards Cemetery Hill. A car pass up the back of the school. And parents who have cars just drive up there to pick up their children. Another one pass up again. And two ladies come up the front steps. I wonder what happening. How come everybody else looking as if they know what happening so? And I know nothing. Girls, quiet now and listen. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Kettle shout. And she slammed the blackboard eraser on she desk. A piece of chalk jump up from she desk and fall on the floor. Miss Kettle glasses almost fall from she face. She pushed them down and the end of her flat nose, and she watching us over them. She hands start to tremble. Chiclet Teeth said something, and the girls in the back row giggle. I said quiet. You all don't know what quiet mean? Now pack your bags quietly and stand. Books slapping books, desks slamming, bags heavy with books, landing on top desk, chairs making ruction with the floor. I pack my bag quick and I stand up behind my chair, real quiet. I nearly put my finger on my lips too, like Teacher V used to make us do in preschool. I'm not giving Miss Kettle no reason to call me an ignoramus or a nincompoop. She liked to call people that. Chiclet Teeth and the girls in the back row still chattering away. Stand up quietly. You understand what quietly mean? Yes, miss. Everybody answer together. Now do exactly as I tell you. Do you understand? Yes, miss. Now take your bags and go straight home. I said straight home, not down in the market square and line by the bus stop. You hear me? Take your bags, get on your bus and go home. Is that clear, girls? Yes, miss. Everybody grab up their bag and is out the door. Some of the girls have to wait for their older sisters in higher forms. Others waiting for their friends or their parents to pick them up. We know something happening, but we don't know what. A swarm of convent girls and brothers college boys and St. Hilary girls flood down Market Hill and make it down full speed. I don't have any friend yet, so I always walking by myself. The market square busy. Children still line up outside, the hungry eye, waiting for the popcorn to stop jumping up and down in the machine. The smell make me mouth water for some. I wish I had some money to buy a bag too, so I can sit in the bus popping them in my mouth one by one and lick the salt from my fingers. I walk straight past the little box shop, through the rows of bus and get on my bus. Miss Kettle's voice still ringing in my ears. The bus almost empty, the driver not in his seat, and I don't hear Joyce, the conductor. She always on the bus talking with the passengers, and she have the biggest, loudest mouth I ever hear, so you must hear her before you see her. As a matter of fact, everything about Joyce big, as if God gave her extra in everything when he was sharing. Something happening in truth because the market square buzzing. Everybody talking about something, the same thing. They hustling around. And even though it's just after one, the market vendors and then pack up their coconuts and yams and they quail up callaloo and start to dry up already. The ripe figs, sapodillas and guavas sit down in the sun whole morning too. The strong smell mixed up with pea scent that's seeping up through the culverts. The bus taking long to full up, and people just stand up outside talking. They're in no haste to go home. A lot of school children still walking about and liming, and children from Western College and Jolly Hill Secondary. I wonder if Marion and them liming, or if she gone home already. A few people come in the bus, and I start hearing pieces of conversation. House arrest, bishop, PRA, going up on the fort. A woman rushed inside the bus with her 2 children. Let we go home, you hear? I ain't like this house arrest business now. She put her head out to the window. People, all you come on the bus, let we go now. I want to go in my house safe and sound. Driver, all you where the driver gone? Where you see I want to go in my house there? And I'm wondering what happening. Bishop, house arrest. What they talking about? Maybe they arrest him in his house. But how they could arrest the prime minister? He's the leader of the people. How they could arrest him? What they arrest him for? Then all of a sudden, people start to rush onto the bus as if something chasing them. Joyce appear and close the door. The driver jump in his seat and start up the bus. You see this thing what going on there? I ain't like it at all. Something real serious happening and the people need to know. The driver say over his shoulder. You ain't hear how much soldiers up on the fort? You better make haste and come back because I'm going up there too, Joyce say. She's squeezing her big self between the seats to collect the bus fare and punch tickets. Stretching herself over people, pushing her big bosom right up in people's face. The bus passed through River Road, Tempe, Montparnasse, and up St. Paul's Road, up to Mardi Gras. All along the way, people heading down the road. All kinds of people, construction workers, their clothes covered up with cement, school teachers and school children, road workers, shopkeepers closing up their shops and heading down too. It's as if everybody just leave what they're doing to join the march. I bet all of them going in town to see what happening. We passed soldiers going down full speed in the army jeeps too. And that make fright swell up in my chest, just like when they come and chop down my father ganja field and arrest him. And that time when they put us in the army truck and bring us in the station. When I reached home, in front of the shop was full of people. All the neighbors and them gather up there listening to the radio. I passed through the kitchen door at the back. I stand up behind the shop door trying to listen. I don't even go and change my clothes. It's a kind of evening I know nobody bothering if I change my clothes or not. The radio announcer saying something about unconfirmed reports that Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, Comrade Maurice Bishop, was placed under house arrest and by some rebels in his own home. Then the announcer said that people were coming from all directions. How the people joining up with the forces, marching up to the Prime Minister's residence, how they're going up to free him. I in the shop now, and nobody see me because all man airs eyes and everything on the radio. Later, the announcer say how Maurice Bishop and some of his ministers were freed by the masses, how they're taking him up to Fort Rupert. Everybody start to clap. Yes, man, that's we boy. Who the hell they think they're playing with? Linty from next door say. She jumping around and clapping. Claire in front the shop, too. She didn't have work that day, and Pam is home. Carlos and Pam children not home yet. I wonder how come they didn't send them home early too. I still don't understand what really happening, but something in the air. I could feel it in my belly. When you reach home, Claire say when she see me. I don't wait for her to say nothing. I fly up the stairs. I never changed my clothes so fast in my life yet. When I go back downstairs, Carlos and them reach home. More people gathering up outside, and all man ears glued to the radio. And they're looking frightened and worried. I upstairs changing Carlos' clothes when the announcer come back on air. again. He's saying how hundreds of people gather up and marching up to Fort Rupert, and how a lot of school children join in them too. And I wonder if their teacher didn't tell them to go straight home too. I just never lime about in town after school like some children. I well glad I home. I changed Carlos' clothes quick and I run back down the stairs. The radio announcer saying how PRA opening fire on the masses. Everybody ball out. What is shooting people for? How come the PRA turn against the people? 1 minute everybody is comrades and everybody love Maurice Bishop, and next minute they shooting down people? Miss Vicky start to bawl. Oh Lord Jesus, where me children? Sweet Jesus, keep me children safe, you hear? She stand up in the road with she hands on she head. She 2 daughters didn't come home on the bus with me. One in the same school with me and the other one going to Western College. Marian not home either. Well, and they tell them to go straight home? What they doing in town still? Claire say. The announcer start talking real fast. He's saying how people running everywhere, running from the bullets, and a lot of school children in uniform too, dodging bullets, running, jumping off high wall from Fort Rupert up by the hospital. That make me think about the Caribs jumping off Caribs Leap by the sea when the French chased them out. Oh Lord, have mercy, Miss Vicky bawling. Sweet Jesus, bring me children home safe. I wonder if Michael go up there too, Tanti say. I holding Carlos on the toilet when the announcer starts saying how Maurice Bishop, along with some of his ministers, have been shot in cold blood by the PRA on the fort. Everybody get quiet. My blood get cold. I hold Carlos tighter. That's not true. How that could happen is not true. Why the PRA want to kill Maurice Bishop? Everybody love Maurice Bishop. He's a good prime minister. How they can kill him just so? Tears burn my eyes, but they don't come out. They go and hide in the back of my head and made me feel full and heavy. In front of the shop, still quiet. Nobody not saying a word. They just listening, waiting to hear what coming next. Carlos gripped me tight. He screw up his little face and push. I rub he back. He push again. He cry out and something plopped down inside the toilet. Carlos hugged my leg while I wipe him. The paper read. Carlos, poor Carlos. Even though Claire does give him cod liver oil and prunes every day, he's still seeing trouble to poo. I raise him up from the toilet and kiss him. I just never get tired of kissing my little brother. I wish I could make the poo come out easier, and I wish I could make mosquitoes stop biting him so. Outside dark now, and the announcer gone. Tanti gone home. Miss Vicky daughters reach, and they gone home too. Marian reach home, Julie and Jimmy too. But Claire, oldest son, the one in the PRA, not home yet. So she eyes making beast. All man wake up early next day and sit down in front of the radio again. The announcer talking about Maurice Bishop and what happened on the fort. Then he say how the country under a state of emergency. How people should stay inside. There is a curfew on. And anyone found outside after 6 would be shot on sight. Thank you. That was an excerpt from the chapter on the Revo Dawn about the revolution. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you. Yeah, girl, the Revo Dawn in Chutwi. That part of the Revo, that is. Indeed, indeed. But we're having a literary revolution here this afternoon. Of course, it's the 8th year of the Anti-Text Spicewood Literary Festival. And Cindy Mackenzie, she is one of our celebrated Grenadian authors. So let's hear it for her again. And we now invite Cindy. She has a special treat for someone who is following on Facebook.
I want to give away a copy of my book today, and I did ask a question on Facebook. I don't know if anybody saw it, but the question was if you could tell me where my first book signing event was in the UK, you win a free copy of my book. At what event my first book signing was in the UK? So if anybody knows the answer, I'll be over there. Feel free to come and get your copy.
All right, great. So if you know the answer, just make sure you make a beeline for Sydney and get your copy of First Ripe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you for sharing with us. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right. Continue writing and telling your stories. Let's hear it for her again. The Grenada Cultural Foundation would like to say thanks to Flo for all the great work that they've done to set up this broadcast this afternoon. Of course, Flo, this is how we flow. Special thank you to Mikey Live, partygrenada.com. Thank you very much, Nazim and Mikey. Of course, GIS Grenada for all your hard work. Thank you so very much. And to the staff and the board of the Grenada Cultural Foundation, thank you guys for continuing to do this. It looks simple and easy, but it's a lot of work. So thank you very much for continuing to do this. And of course, the furniture this evening, or set, if you will. It is provided compliments. Courts, make your Christmas season at Courts. It's going to be an epic one. And when you purchase gifts, anything $4.99 and over, you win gifts on selected purchases from Courts. We move on here we're live at the Spiceland Mall, the food court area that is. It's quite busy down here this afternoon. Those of you online with us and on GIS TV, if you're just joining us, welcome you to the 8th Aunty Spicewood Literary Festival. Our next author, he's a poet. He's a young and energetic one. He's only 19. He is Dante Wilkes. He was born in the United Kingdom and came to Grenada when he was 9 years old. He's currently a student of psychology in a bachelor's degree program at St. George's University. He exposed to the arts at a very early age. His mother, we all know her, Dale Bowler Wilkes, and she's been a part of theater and drama and journalism for a number of years. You're with Uriah Peters. She was just on stage with Ricardo Keynes Douglas and other playwrights. Dante says he used poetry as a medium of raw and honest expression of emotions, views, and issues that he sees in society. And he aspired to publish books with some of his shorter poetry in the future. Please welcome Dante Wilkes. Good afternoon, Dante.
Afternoon.
Yeah, quite daunting, so I'll stay. I'll stay on this side. All right. So it is a pleasure to have you here with us. Yeah. And of course, congratulations on being featured in the Spicewood Literary Festival.
Thank you.
All right. Have you ever observed it before? Just your thoughts on authors, writing, publishing works, literary arts here in Grenada?
I saw it once before, and it was inspiring to see different Grenadian authors because you don't really see them on a regular basis. So to see all of them together in one place was very it was encouraging for me to continue what I'm doing.
Right, yeah. Right. So you're thinking, you're answering to say that there is the space then for literary works and people to do this.
I think it's once you have the motivation and you have something to write about opposed to just writing, then you could do whatever you want to do.
Right. So why are you writing and not playing basketball?
Because I think everybody plays basketball, right? You could just take a basketball and go on the court. But to write is you have to see something that inspires you, something that encourages you, and then you put it to paper in an emotional way. And that's a different beast altogether.
I like that.
So, yeah.
Everybody plays basketball, but not everybody sees.
Yeah.
That's right. In terms of books, literary works, and all of that, who are you most inspired by?
literary works and books. Well, one book I was inspired by, not directly for poetry, but genuinely inspiration, was Mr. Ambrose's first book, right? White Spice.
Really? White Spice?
Yes, because he taught me in TMCC. So from then it was just off. So it's like, as I saw him with his book, it was just, okay, well, he's teaching me and he has a book already, so I could just do it from here. If he's teaching me, I have it already.
That's amazing. That's amazing. See, Mr. Ambrose, you're a mentor in the true sense of the word. Even if it's one, you did your job.
Yeah, man.
Poetry, you know, the spoken word.
Yeah.
You know, we are inspired by nature, by events, by people, by things. How does it work for you?
Well, I get a question a lot. Everyone asks me, what is your process? There is no detailed process. It's just like, I could literally be sitting down somewhere, and then suddenly something would come to me. Or I would see an issue, like something would happen, and I'll just be like, well, that can't just go unsaid or unspoken, so I would write about it. Or if I see a problem or something that bothers me, and it shouldn't continue that way, I would write about it to possibly make a difference on the issue.
Right. So writing is your way to express all the emotions that you go through.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And after you write, how you feel?
After I write, well, depending on what I write, sometimes I feel at peace, but other times I feel even worse than before. I feel more passionate, like this has to stop now that I wrote it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I could identify with that. Sometimes when you write it, it's like you create another problem.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like that.
All right. So here's Dante, and I'm sure you're excited to hear what he has to do for us, present to us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Dante Wilkes.
Yes, thank you. So this piece is called I Was Offered Money to Sell My Existence, right? And I wrote it because basically paid labor is a very daunting thing, because people would get basically paid money to sell your time, and you'll basically sell away your life for a paycheck at the end of the month, your energy, you take time away from your family, you take time from your children just for an amount of money that people deem fit, when there isn't really enough. There'll never be enough money to put to your time. A paycheck can never be enough because you're sacrificing your time, your life, and your energy. So, yeah. Right. I was offered money to sell my existence. You know those two famous phrases, money makes the world go around and money is the root of all evil? I wonder if these statements are true. Or are these just faded remnants from an unconscious mind, choking on the poison of unknown social control, burning the lungs of any curious proletariat as the bourgeoisie push their hidden agendas, using cultivated ignorance as stepping stones, built as the mighty pillars holding up the infrastructure, an all-powerful figurehead that provides an ever-fleeting goal for productive workers to strive towards. Conflict is a suitable name for this theory, as in the end it is indeed a battle of man against humanity. We are all members of the human race, yet we each seem to be measured on a scale of values. How much our existence truly contributes to this covered-up chaos that we call our current society. It's often said that slavery ended long ago. In a conventional sense, I guess this may be true. The owning class realized that chain shackles were a bit too obvious, so they switched out those chains, replacing them with price tags. Putting a value onto life itself, it is the workers' very existence that this theory has made them sell. Owners become heartless to all but the bottom line and profit margin. The word paycheck quickly becomes a synonym for death certificate, as the worker's time on this earth is sacrificed for what is simply deemed as a better quality of life. Given freedom of physical movement but never allowed to indulge in the risks of free thought, the working class are the new slaves, restricted by a value system that they had no choice in. Given their all just for the slightest taste of paradise, seen as an oasis in the form of controlling the means of production, but their reality reveals itself as nothing more than a mirage, an illusion that hides the true depth to which they are oppressed. If it stays this way, the disadvantage will be deafened from the mere whispers of people in power. With the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, money is taken like liters of blood by the leech called an us versus them mentality. So once again I wonder, is money indeed the root of all evil, or is it simply a seed sown in the field of a corrupt society? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dante.
Yes.
So, what does money mean to you?
Money means to me and what I want it to mean to me are two different things.
Right.
What money means to me right now is basically, to sum it up in one word, survival. Right? But what I want it to mean to me, realistically, money is just paper and ink. It's us and human beings and people in power that put a value to it. So if no one was to acknowledge money, like this $5 note is $5, then it becomes meaningless. It's basically just ones and zeros on a page. If you turn every one to a zero, it becomes completely pointless. There's no reason to carry it around. So.
I never thought of it like that before.
Yeah.
Yeah? You mentioned, your description depicts value, and you mentioned the word value as well. As a young man, in terms of, do you think we place value on the wrong things?
Well, I would say wrong is a very subjective term to use, but then I think the focus is on the wrong areas, or they're not the best areas to focus on, because people have their different rights and wrongs, but generally, if you were to put right as the best for humanity, I think that some areas should get less focus, because we focus a lot more on the outside, the material, the temporary, and we don't focus on things that matter, like people, human beings, their actual feelings and emotions and well-being as a human race on a whole.
Right. So how you process feeling and emotions and interactions? First of all, your interactions with adults, you know, I mean, it's like, I know we kind of, we bore you to death, right? And to people like yourself, how do you put those interactions in a scope?
Well, if I had to put them in a scope, I would say it doesn't really matter what age you are if it comes to interactions with me. It's just once I realize what you're telling me making sense, and once you have something to tell me, it doesn't matter if I know what you tell me already. I just believe that anyone you meet could teach you something.
Right.
They may not be like educated in this doctorate degree here, this master's degree there, but then they've lived in a school of life, in a sense, right? So they've got an education through life, through experience. So their own experience could give you some enlightenment that you could never have thought of before you met them.
Right, yeah. So. That's respect. Yeah. That's respect. That is respect. And that's important. In terms of your family life, and so your mother, I'm sure, did any of this come from her? I'm sure as a young boy, maybe even inside the belly, mommy may have been in a stage somewhere, in some production room somewhere, in front of some camera somewhere. So where did it come from?
Personally, I think it runs in the blood, like on a real deep level. I think it runs in the blood because we all. Like, all my family is creative people. From my mother to my sister to me, we all gravitated towards the arts, whether it be singing or drama or poetry or writing stories. We all kind of just meshed towards expression and creativity.
Yeah. Expression, creativity, the arts, the academics. Let's just explore that a little bit. Because that's the world we live in, where we see literary works or creative works, and someone who is probably a medical doctor. The society might look at a poet or an artist or an author as they're not equal in value. Yes. Right? Your thoughts?
That's also why I talk about value a lot in different pieces I have. I talk about values and statuses and things like that, because basically if I could come up to somebody and tell them basically all about their life, the secrets of existence and all these things, but it all depends on where I stand in their scope, because if I don't have maybe a degree in philosophy, they might not take what I'm saying seriously. But I could say the same exact thing as another person, but they would measure them based on what qualifications they have, how long they've lived. For example, me being 19, lots of people don't take what I say seriously, or they take it with a grain of salt, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So it will be all of a perception type of thing.
Right. Indeed. So you tell young men, like yourself, who playing basketball or football, about writing, about reading, and just expressing your thoughts however they can.
I think everything and everyone has a place in life, right? If that's your passion, then go behind it. If you like to play sports, then your passion is sports. You will go behind sports. Because I know some friends I have, they wouldn't really rush to write something, but if we went on a court somewhere, they're just running laps around me. I can't keep up whatsoever. So they have their strengths and I have mine. So it's not necessary to say, well, if they're not writing, then they're not as expressive, because it could be expressive, but then they put their
sports.
passion and their energy into sports.
Into something else.
So, yeah.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you, Dante.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for him.
Right.
From the mouth of babes, right? Yeah. Keep looking for this youngster. 19-year-old Dante Wilkes. Let's hear it for Dante. Thanks, Dante.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. It is the 8th Aunty-Tech Spice Word Festival here at we're coming to you live from the Spiceland Mall, coming on GIS TV, Mikey Live. We thank you so very much. Party Grenada Events page, the Facebook page that is, thank you. And the Grenada Cultural Foundation, a Facebook page as well. We thank you. Thank you to the management of the Spiceland Mall for hosting us. All of you who have stopped by in and out all evening, having your lunch and listening to the literary works of great Grenadian authors and different artists. We thank you for sharing your Saturday afternoon with us. We move on, and it's a pleasure to introduce our next author. Yes, the author is now attached to the name Lexanne Fletcher. She is one of Grenada's most notable television personalities and a philanthropist with almost 20 years' experience. Lexanne is a past National Carnival Queen runner-up. Lexanne wasn't a queen? Well, to me it was. Right? And Miss Caribbean International 1998. She is best known as the host and producer of the TV show Chit Chat, which ran for 10 years. Lexanne is married with 2 daughters. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome author Lexanne Fletcher.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Good.
Thank you
Hi,
so
Lexanne.
much. Hello, Brenda.
How are you doing?
I'm ecstatic. I'm still over the moon. I'm still processing this whole new title and and my boy Kyle. You know, it's like they say, it's surreal. It's such it's an amazing experience, and especially I always like to say it's for not just my children, it's for our children.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes. I was at the launch of it last week, and it was really, really good. Kyle's red
Thank
shoes,
you. Thank
the
you.
illustration, animation, great job. Great job.
Thank you.
When you thought about all the things you wanted to do, because I'm sure you did, being a creative person at a very young age, tell me, this must have been the most unlikely thing.
It was, and I think, becoming a mother sparked the whole interest, and I always said, I wanted to write a book one of these days and name it after my children, put the names together and come up with some sort of adventurous little girl growing up in Grenada doing stuff. But then I keep bumping into blocks, I was no author then. I was just somebody who was just putting pen to paper with all these crazy ideas. And I just had a little block, and I said, man, I need to learn the fundamentals of how to write for children, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
And then the Room to Read project, also along with the Grenada Schools Inc. I want to say a special hello to the entire team, Ms. Andrea Phillip and everyone else. Thank you so much. The opportunity came up last November. And they said, hey, we're going to be doing this thing again where folks get to do a workshop. And if your story is selected, hey, we're going to publish it. And I said, sign me up. I went in there, I didn't know what to expect. They gave us various, titles. They gave us boy, shoes, red shoes, bat, ball, all these things. And I said, I'm going to combine a boy and a red shoe.
A boy and a red shoe.
A boy and a red shoe. And I came up with this, and then after editing and re-editing, the rest is history. The rest is history.
Yeah. It's rare that you can put a boy in a red shoe, because young boys do have an affinity for red shoes.
They do.
Yes.
Check out the camera, man. It's not exactly red, but
it's not exactly red, but they like bright shoes.
Over there, you know what I mean? What's up, Kyle?
That's a maternal thing in you. Yes.
Yes.
Also, I've heard many times, I've interviewed authors and so on, they say how, we have the perception, oh, it's so easy to write for children. I've heard it's not so easy. Is that true?
It is very true. And again, I'm gonna say thank you to my children because, we always joke around at home and they always say, Mommy, you act like a kid, And I'm like, you know what? Maybe that was a bonus for me because it helped me to, relate to what children loved or what they didn't like. The imagination, the fertile imagination of children, being able to fly and, all these little things. And you really had to step out of your box, out of your comfort zone and just become little Lexan all over again. You know what I mean? And like I say, Kyle was born. Kyle was born.
So little Lexan will transport herself into Kyle's red shoes. Let's hear it for the author, Lexan Fletcher.
Thank you. All right, folks, I'm going to sit, and if I can just give you a little heads up into this story. My story was selected along with 6 other Grenadian authors. The books were published. They're not for sale because it was made possible by nonprofit organizations. And essentially, every child on island, Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, will be receiving a book. Each school on island, so all public and private primary schools, will receive a copy of Kyle's Red Shoes. And Kyle's story was in the universal category because of the storyline. And without giving out too much, the story essentially is about caring and sharing and teaching children the importance of giving. Kyle had many toys and lots of clothes. He liked them all, but he loved his red shoes best. He and his shoes went everywhere together. Kyle's red shoes made him jump high and run fast. Some nights, he even fell asleep with them on. Nothing will ever come between me and my shoes, said Kyle. His red shoes made him feel special. One evening, Kyle heard his parents talking. A giant storm had hit another island. Everyone lost their home. They lost everything, said his mom. They will need food, water, clothing, even shoes, his dad said. Not my red shoes, Kyle said. Those are my special shoes. But you don't have to give your red shoes, his mom said. Any shoes will do. Kyle found some old shoes at the back of his closet. He put them in a box, and then he added some other things. A pair of old pants, a too small shirt, some broken toys. I don't need these things, he said. Some other boy will be glad to have them. The next day, Kyle went to school with his box. On his way, he saw Mr. Jones. Oh, it feels good to help, Mr. Jones told the driver. When we had a hurricane here, we needed lots of water. I'm helping too, Kyle said. At school, all the students had brought things to send to the other island. Kyle added his box to the pile. His teacher, Mrs. Charles, held up a stuffed bunny. When I was a girl, I lost my teddy bear in a storm, she said. My cousins sent me a new one, and I still have it. I sent some toys too, Kyle said. He tried not to think about how broken and ripped they were. As Kyle walked home, he passed 2 ladies talking. I remember when we had a hurricane, she said. All of my things were ruined. Mine too, said the other. But my neighbor gave me a pretty dress. I love that dress. It made me feel special. Kyle and his red shoes ran off to play. Everywhere they went, people packed donations. It doesn't matter that I only gave old things, Kyle said to himself. The people on the other island will still get everything they need. That night, a hurricane came. Winds blew, waves pounded, rain poured. Kyle's house washed away. So did all his clothes and toys, even his red shoes. He tried to swim after them, but a big wave took them away. Come back, Red Shoes, he yelled. Come back! Without his shoes, he did not feel special at all. Kyle woke with a start. He was safe in his bed. His red shoes were still there. Mommy, he shouted, I had a bad dream. Your mom has left to drop off a package at the port, his dad said. Is something wrong? I must catch her, Kyle said. Quickly, Kyle put on his red shoes and he ran as fast as he could all the way to the port. His shoes gave him extra speed. There was Mom, handing her package to the man next to the boat. Hello, Kyle, she said. Look at all the donations ready to go. Beside her was a large box filled with shoes. Blue shoes, brown shoes, black and gray shoes. Lots and lots of ordinary shoes. Kyle put his shoes at the top of the pile. But why? Asked his mom. Those shoes are your special shoes. Now they will make another boy feel special, Kyle said. And I will feel special knowing that I made someone else feel special. And at the end of the page, there was another boy on another island that was ruined by a hurricane wearing those really radical red shoes. Compliments, Kyle. The end.
Ah, yes.
I get goosebumps every time I read that
yes,
story.
because I mean, it's so intimate. It's almost like a dream come true. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Kyle's Red Shoes, everyone. Let's hear it for author Lexanne Fletcher.
Thank you again, and I really want to say thank you, especially again, I can't say thank you enough, Brenda, to Mrs. Andrea Phillip and the entire team at Grenada Schools, Inc., and also to the trustees, Mr. Ramdani, and all the other good folks who made the publication, the story, come to life. And folks, for any of you here, remember this book along with the other authors. It's 7 of us in all. All our stories are going to be in each primary, every single primary school, private and government primary schools on island, including Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Thank you so much, folks. And let's keep inspiring our children with, reading great stories. Thanks again, Brenda.
Thanks, Lexanne.
Thank
Congratulations.
you to the team. Thank you to the team of the Cultural Foundation as well. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Lexanne Fletcher, everyone. Author Lexanne Fletcher. Kyle's Red Shoes. Yeah, boys love red shoes. Why? Cameraman, why? Just so? All you like bright things? Oh. I hear you. It is the Aunty Spice Word Festival, the 8th one. We're coming to you live on location at the Spiceland Mall in Grand Anse, the food court area. That is, in case we're wondering, there is this wonderful setup. And we're here. We must say thanks to those carrying it for us. GIS Television, to Party Grenada, thank you very much. Mikey Live, thank you. And you can also find it on the Grenada Cultural Foundation's Facebook page. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the time has come for us to introduce and feature our final author this afternoon. Geoffrey A. Gilbert. He is the author of 3 novels. 3, Yep. Jungle Rescue, The Based Off Conspiracy, and A Chase to Argyle's Castle. He's an ardent follower of current and international affairs. And in his books, if you've ever read anyone, he takes you to places that you really don't take the plane to go. So he take you there. With his meandering thrill and adventures. Gilbert intrigues readers with sheer excitement and unpredictability. He also aspires to have his work adapted to film. Now, he participated in the Hollywood Pitch Fest, Los Angeles, that's in September of 2014, in Las Vegas, Nevada in June 2016. And of course, you can visit his website, www.Geoffrey, that's Geoffrey with a G, Geoffrey, Gilbert.com for more details. He's currently on his fourth, Terror, Passion, and Courage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Geoffrey A. Gilbert. Good afternoon.
A very pleasant good afternoon to you and all of the persons in the audience.
So, Mr. Gilbert, you just keep writing and just writing, and so I think you've discovered your passion.
Most definitely, I have. Yes, I have.
4 books in like 3 and some years?
Just about 4 years, 4.5 years, thereabout.
Wow. Let's give him a round of applause.
And on a 5th.
You're on a 5th?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's talk about a 4. Right, so we started off with Jungle Rescue, and we thought, okay, all right. He had a little boyhood story in his head, and he traveled. He took us to the jungles of South America, Colombia, and all of that. And it had a little intrigue. It had a little sex. It had, a little thing. And then we got into the Bezatov conspiracy, and I'm like, okay, so this is a movie. And then A Chase to Argyle's Castle, and now Terror, Passion, Courage. What's that all about?
Well, it's just part of, as you said, my boyhood dream. I always wanted to write. I would have stated in my bio. I grew up in a very poor and rural community, so reading played an integral part in my own personal development. While the other guys were there doing guy stuff, I was at home reading by candlelight, and thus began my passion for reading, and obviously it led me to write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and for many years, you've known you as a financier, a banker, crunching numbers,
of course, yes.
and just all of a sudden, Mr. Gilbert not retires, but takes a break from financing, and then just becomes an author.
Yeah, it's been a very thrilling and exciting journey, as you indicated before. My plan ultimately is to get one of my pieces in the film.
Right.
Jungle Rescue is already in the database. Mm-hmm. I'm working towards having this book, Terror, Passion, and Courage, into the Hollywood database as well. So the more books you have in the database, the greater chances that someone may stumble upon it.
Right.
So it's just about putting the stuff out there. And because I write in a very unusual, what I would call un-Caribbean style.
Okay.
Because generally, the Caribbean genre is slightly different. Mm-hmm. Because what I write is the kind of stuff you may see from Ludlum, from Stephen King and, these guys.
Okay. And which one of those that you love to read?
If I have to look at
James Patterson.
Yeah, well, actually, Robert Ludlum. He's definitely my writing idol.
Oh, okay, great. And you mentioned being in the Hollywood database, so that will take quite a bit of networking.
Of course.
How does someone from this part of the world network with people like that?
Well, having auditioned in 2014, I got there with Jungle Rescue. Right? Many persons saw it and they felt, hey, look, you have a good chance of getting this book in. So the next step you need to do is to have someone to do the screenplay, which I finance from my own resources. Mm-hmm. It's very, very costly, but at least if you want to get your work out there, you have to show that you have a passion and interest for it. Right. No one's going to feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Especially coming from these parts, you've got to go there and be very assertive and aggressive to ensure that you get the work outside out.
What role technology plays in this? Like being online, having an online presence, getting in the whole, the getting your eyes, your work in the eyes of the right people, like online mediums and so. How does that help?
Well, I mean, technology plays a pivotal role for me, and I'm sure for other writers. So, for instance, this book Terror, Passion, and Courage, I've decided I've been in this business long enough to cut the middleman out. So I've started working with my ad, which I have for this book and for the other 4 books, and I went directly to the producer, and we were able to work together, tweak the ad, and get a final product, which I have. And significantly, when you look at the actual cost, I've been able to save, more than 50%, right? When I compare what I would have been charged previously. Right. It is just awesome in terms of the savings.
Well, let's hear some of Terror, Passion, and Courage.
Before I go into the piece, I just want to say that for some reason, this book, many of the scenes were set in Turkey, right? And when I listen to the news, because I always listen to the news to get ideas and different prompts for my books, and when I started hearing what's happening in Turkey, and I went back to certain chapters of the book, and I said to myself, wow, well, this is something very creepy here. There's a character in my book called Jamal, right? And when I heard what's happening, I said, you've got to tickle yourself. Are you sure? I said, yes, there is a character called Jamal. And there are some strange meetings in different parts of Turkey, in Ankara, in Istanbul, right? So I think I will select a piece from Turkey, and I guess many of you will know why. In the dedication of this book, I did say it is dedicated to law enforcement and many, many persons who are giving their lives every day so that we can hear the news, every day so that what's happening around the world can be broadcast. I haven't got to tell you that there are many persons who've lost their lives during the last year. There's a notable figure who lost his life recently for just being in the news. So here, I'm just saying that as writers, as persons who are in the arts, we need to be thankful for where we are. We need to be thankful. So I would go into a piece. Just bear with me one sec while I pull up the... Okay, this is from chapter 5 of Terror, Passion, and Courage. General Mehmet Ahmed Tigal picked up the telephone. He had some interesting developments to share with the American ambassador to Turkey. After his last conversation with a jihadist named Yusuf Azizi, so much has happened. This is the kind of stuff you only see in the movies. The general spoke softly to himself. Everything seemed so surreal. The general had done a very convincing job on the jihadist broker, so much so that he was convinced that he was one of their sympathizers or supporters.